Hello. What's the download? M.I.A. Okay. I do have a bit of a download to share because I just landed in the UK and I was having a nice day. Completely had no idea there was this like entire BS thing was brewing. Had a really nice day. And then I spoke to my mom and she was like, do you know what's happening? Don't go outside. Can you get the cab to the house from the airport? You might get killed on the way. And I'm like, what is going on? And I think now is a good time to share this thing that I learned this week, which is really awesome. And yeah, the UK is wilding, but like, I'm going to be on live and you'll see how often, and I'm kind of in the thick of it, and you'll see how often a police car goes by, which is not that much, but, you know, we'll talk about that in a minute. There are helicopters and things. But here's the download. The download is this. Hey, I kid. Bro. So, the download is this. Your soul is your past. Your mind is your present. And your spirit is the future. So don't let somebody trigger your past, your soul, by the present, which is your mind, to steal your future, because what you do now is going to affect what you are and who you are and what you're going to do and what you're going to be and how you're going to be. So every moment that you're being triggered and your soul is being triggered on because your soul is emotional. So your soul splits into three things, which is your emotions go in that, and your action, your will, and what the choices you make is determined by your soul. So when your emotions are triggered and you act crazy, you make decisions in a very heightened emotional moment that will affect your spirit, which is what is meant for you and what you truly are. And it can change your destiny. So the entire thing about social media and the news and all of these things, politicians, algorithms, they know how to trigger your emotions. And they know how to trigger your emotions based on also your past. And it does sound like I'm saying the Kamala Harris strapline. Do not be burdened by the past and what your future can be, or whatever the saying is. That is funny. But it's completely relevant for England, all right? Because England wants to get back to some sort of past identity of itself, which is the soul of England. But the mind is manipulated through media and social media and everything. And it would determine the spirit of England and what England will be in the future. And I think the spirit of England, the spirit of anybody now, the fight is to live without bitterness, hatred, to be loving, forgiving, so many things. And that is the war, you know, to not lose sight of yourself. And I think that's what this exercise is another one. To trigger you, to get you distracted, and to, you know, not think about the destinies of individuals and what like God has put in you, because you're constantly, you know, told about this past and this past version of yourself, and you're triggered, and then you have to hate somebody, and as soon as you do that, you kind of diminish your energy. So there you go. People should not live in fear. I'm going to put Belle's collection back on. And WikiLeaks. Hate is not a useful energy to have. No. So yeah, that's the thing. That's what I learned this week, is that the soul is the past, mind is the present, and you're in the present, and you got to watch and learn and digest, discern, know, you know, the entire thing with this immigrant issue, it makes no sense to me. Because obviously there is always events, and I think that there's is probably a distraction. We don't need a civil war in England. We're already controlled by America, so it's never going to change anything, whether we are, what kind of decisions we make. And everything is a distraction from the word of God. That's what someone said. I think I don't remember she was she doesn't remember she was a musician. I'm not going to get into that right now. Because I'm going to the USA. We're controlled by the US. And also, like, a lot of people are triggered in England when they don't travel. And like, having traveled and just landing in England, and you're just like, whoa, what is going on? And obviously, it is the people that are the easiest to manipulate are the ones that don't zoom out and see and travel. And obviously traveling is getting harder and harder because the ticket prices are like ridiculous. So there's going to be a demographic of people in this country, or any country, including all European countries, who aren't going to be able to travel. Yeah, because first of all, it's like to do with the carbon credits and all of this stuff. And that's kind of like another fight. That's kind of like the real fight, except you're being distracted. So the ticket prices are going to be like very expensive as the years go on, and people are not going to travel at all. So you're just going to be stuck in a place where you're going to be told this is what's happening and this is what's controlling you, this is how you're acting, this is what you're going to do. And you wouldn't know how the rest of the world is. And I get it. There's like massive issues with Islamophobia this week. And I'm wondering if that's because the Keir Starmer's decision on arms export, I should say, to the war. I don't know. It could be something else. If it's to do with the crime, the stabbing event, then it wasn't done by a Syrian refugee, so I don't know, or why that's being targeted. Is kind of the same as, you know, going apeshit on everyone because one person does something and they're not even from the people that they're trying to start riots with, are not even from the same demographic. It's kind of weird. So I do think it's crazy confusion, but not, it's like a manipulated confusion. But the manipulated confusion and the manipulated emotions is targeting your soul through your mind, which is connected to the device. And then that would knock you off your destiny if you fall for it. So don't. And that's all I have to say. And that kind of applies to everything. So in that sense, I guess I was emotionally moved to download Instagram, get on Instagram and say this to you. Have a good day. So, hi Philip. M.I.A, what is your favorite song from your discography? I tell you this. So I went to check out some really cool speakers, all right? It was cool. And I was like, I can only tell what speakers are good by playing my discography in a certain way. So obviously, when I want to check speakers, I put on the M.I.A album. So I put it on after a long time. I put on, I think, Only One You. That usually can determine if the speakers are shit or not. And then I realized, I put on Only One You, and I put on Lights, and then I checked my speakers. But then, actually, I put on the AIM album, and I realized, like, I really like that album. And I'm not, you can tell, like, spiritually, I changed or something. And everyone was like, oh, AIM is so boring. But I'm like, wow, thank God for this album, because it's like, it's not offensive. And I have one album that's not offensive, which is nice. M.I.A, I don't play the M.I.A album on the speakers because usually they blow up and like catch on fire and shit. I do have the footage somewhere of that. I will find it. Do you regret anything? No. Yeah, when people say, hey, you look really young, what is your skincare routine? I would say regret is definitely a thing you should get rid of. You know, work towards getting rid of regret and bitterness, you know, and that helps. Hot pink suit. You don't need crystals. They're nice and they're pretty, and it's made by the earth, which is cute and it's nice. But you need something more than crystals, because even crystals are made just like we are. We have power more than crystals. Just need God. Yeah. Would you ever make a Born Free like album? No, because it's weird. Born Free came at a time where I was angry. I was disappointed at the world. It was written as the genocide on the Tamils was happening, and they were bombing the no-fire zone. And I was angry and disappointed and hurt and like a lot of emotions. Very emotionally triggered. Very. And I was ready to burn my destiny, whatever it was, you know. And yeah, and that's basically why it's a suicide sample. I was ready to like go mad. But then I realized now I can't write that record because I feel like I already am born free, and that if I just realize that power, and I could just realize it in that one sentence, and it's already done. It's already done. Like I'm already born free. And what I'm fighting for is not my freedom, because I already have that. What I'm fighting for is something else. And the fight is your destiny. It's like you're fighting for your destiny. And it's a different thing. And to address that you need to fight for your freedom means you're oppressed. But it's not like I don't see it as an earthly thing. And I see it as a spiritual thing. I haven't done a show in London because remember I got like cancelled off shows in London. Because I went on Candace Owen. See? And you go, why would England react like that for me doing an American podcast? Because that's who really controls England. And whether you riot in the streets with like Muslims that run a kebab shop or not, it makes no difference. And also like the ideology in the United States is not easy to fit onto the UK because we're like different. We are different. But I think it will take a lot more time for people to just like, you know, settle into that. Like it's like England's under the illusion that it's got a thing and it's got a vibe and an identity, you know. And when you say you're going to fight the globalists, the choice is, you know, we fold into America, that's it. Or you accept like a global policy or whatever. I don't know what that is. But I think there's a little bit of growing pains on that. Okay. Go woke, go broke, but music is different, is weird. What? I don't understand. Music has access to your spirit. It goes directly to your spirit. You bypass all the bullshit. And whether the person is open to it or not, it goes straight into their ears and it accesses the spirit. Which is why music is the weapon, or not a weapon, but is a tool for both good and bad. Because you can lift up the spirit, you can awaken the spirit, you can activate the spirit, you can change the mood, you can change the vibe of the person, you can bring them to like a different vibration and all of these things. And the music has the power to do that. And the words have power to do that. But just like that, you could do the opposite, where you can control someone's state of being in a negative way. And so musicians are kind of considered to be, they're supposed to, I mean, if you do your job right, then you are connected into the divine, because obviously you operate in the world of frequencies, you know. So, but then you have a responsibility. And I think that a lot of musicians are really nice and they can be pure and they can be cool and all of these things, and then they get distracted and tapped for their energy and then sent in the wrong direction or told to put out a different thing. You know, you have to understand my two famous songs are the most violent, but I didn't choose those two songs to be the biggest two songs of my discography, but they are. They are the ones you guys love. It's the two songs that is violent. I feel like if I put out a love song, you don't like it. That is facts. But I do specialize in that. I'm very good at it. I really have to. stop myself being so good at it, because I don't think the world needs any more violence. What do you think about 3D, 4D, and 5D? I think this. I'm going to break it down in a Christian way right now, because this is what I've been saying to my friends lately. It goes like this. So I do believe that there's truth in what your mind thinks and the reality that manifests around you. So you have to be able to be in control of yourself, analyze yourself, because you are projecting that. And you will keep revisiting it until you grow and overcome it, and learn to like deal with it, forgive, and learn the positive in it, or see it as a blessing. Oh, if you are not grateful, you're a great fool. Isn't that awesome? That's a good one. So every opportunity is an opportunity to be grateful. Okay? So until you're grateful, even for bullshit, because you can learn from the bullshit, you will keep running into bullshit. So you gotta be grateful, or you're a grateful. Second of all, I do think that in a Christian sense of the word, so apparently, I learned this in Easter, by the way. Apparently, the reason why Jesus died is to cleanse everybody of all the bad things that are there. And you're like, why? Because when the world was going haywire and it was full of sin and all of these things, and you know, whatever that event was, ultimately it's an event where Jesus wrote a will for all human beings to have the best life. And God is a fair God, so he also let Satan write a will. So Jesus wrote a will, and God let Satan write the will. And whoever died first got to implement the will. And so Jesus died, and Satan didn't die. So because he died, that will was implemented, which means you already have all of that. You have the power, and you have everything you need to make your life great. But because Satan didn't die, and he is pissed that Jesus died first before he could, and also Satan was trying to stop the crucifying of Jesus Christ, because he wanted the whole thing not to come to fruition. But Jesus died, and this is why when Peter was trying to stop it, he was like, "Get thee behind me, Satan," because he knew that Satan was talking through Peter, saying, "Let me die for you," which means the will could not be implemented. So the will was implemented, which means you already inherited the good life. But you think you got a crap life because you have been brainwashed by Satan into thinking all of this fucking mess is going on, right? So every day you wake up, everything the simulation or whatever you want to call it, or people who are stuck in the 3D versus people who are stuck in the 5D, and all of these things, is basically that. It's the game of somebody telling you it's so far away from you, the goodness and the good life, and all of these things that you want to manifest with your mind is so far away from you, which means that every morning you wake up, all you're manifesting and projecting is lack and poverty and hardship or destruction and pain and oppression and all of these things. And if we are all doing it together, if we're all manifesting this, and we're all manifesting mental illness, we're all manifesting like confusion and despair and all of these things constantly, then it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So it is a battle every day that I wake up and you try not to give into it. And obviously, everything that is happening is an answer to something someone's thought and willed. And so if you want to change the future, you do have to start with yourself and start willing things as though you already have them. And some people call this affirmations or whatever, but that's like, I don't know, that sounds quite new age. But what it is that it's just you realizing that it can't be undone. Like someone's already died to implement that thing in you. You already have it. And yes, we have lots of other beliefs and religions and all of these things in the world. But I think that even the truth in all of those religions, if they sieve out the 90% of BS that's built up bullshit over the many centuries, if you sieve all the culture, the tradition, the social crap, the political crap, the power shit, all of that's been built on top of the truth for thousands of years, because beyond Christianity, the other religions are older. So like, that means they have even more bullshit built on top of them. So if you clean away all that mess, underneath there is truth. And that truth connects. You will know, if you know that truth, you will also know this truth and this truth and this truth, because it's all the same. And a lot of the shit, the reason why people fight is customs. And when people, when you talk about God and everyone says, well, what about this? And what about the children dying? Or, my aunt getting cancer. And you're like, you can't bring it back down to an individual thing like that, because if you are, then you have to look at the individual. And if you look at the individual, then everything around the individual is a thing around the manifested form of that individual, And so a kid getting cancer it could be determined by like so many different things. One is the place. One is the environment. 2 is the mind of the parents. 3 is like, it could be generational curses or whatever you want to call it, generational bloodline stuff that's coming through. It could be something that is just somebody did something in passing to like someone in the family, and it's like a curse that went to the kid. It could be karma, yes. It could be so many things. So you can't just reduce it to the present and be like, somebody has cancer, that means God doesn't exist. It's not true. Like, it's so well designed that you will get exactly what you think. And how much you are connected. And God can also give you the power to cure your own cancer if you believe that, and if you know it, and if you have done the work to do that. You know, and one of the things to get to that level is that you do have to give up a lot of stuff. And you have to sacrifice a lot of things, of learned things from your environment. And you have to reduce yourself to like the pure spirit and being and connect. And then you can manifest what you want. And if you want to be anointed with the power to heal yourself, you can. Or you can find somebody who can have that power, you know, like it's again, I don't know, there's many ways how the world is working. And if you think, even if you take, in every religion, they have issues of good and evil. Whether you're looking at Hinduism, and you know, in Hinduism, a lot of people who are now following Hinduism say, oh, it's all one. You must love everything. Everything is like da 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 da, and it's not true. Even in Hinduism, they had demons and gods. Buddhists had concept of hell, and they did. They had concepts of demons. And so you have to know why all of these religions had it. You can't suddenly start editing those things out of these ancient religions and say you practice them, because that's not true. Because you had suras and the asuras in Hinduism, and Krishna fought demons all the time. So anyway, my point is that, say a religion is 6,000 years old, or 10,000 years old, or even 2,000 years old, and they're talking about this concept of God and a demon, good and evil, whether that is in yourself or it's external forces coming at you, that thing, they've both been equally active in the world for thousands of years. So when you think, where is your God? Does God exist? Or who's your God? Know that it's both been co-working together at the same time. So God is like here doing his thing, Satan's over here doing this thing, and then fast forward 3,000 years, here we are. You think that all of Satan's thing was eradicated and it's just God operating? No. It's like going to the supermarket. This is a really weird analogy. I don't even know if it's going to make sense, but it's like going into the supermarket and you have an aisle of this stuff, and then you've got aisle of that stuff, and they've both been working on their products. And it's not like if this thing exists, that one doesn't. So yeah, so that's why you get the confusion, and you have to have discernment, because 50% of the world is full of chaos to make you distracted and to steal your destiny and to distract you and to fill you with hate, to be the advocate for demons, to do their jobs, to lose faith, to think there is no God, and Or that is the whole point. And if you're thinking like that, then he's done a really good job on you. And that's probably what it is. And in terms of everything is all the same, now is not the time. I would have said that 10 years ago, but now is not the time. Now, it's better to have discernment and a very good acute sense of what the fuck is going on. Because this is what's going on. That was a really long answer to, do you believe in 5D? Wow. So, okay, so have you heard sirens and helicopters on my chat? Not really, right? So this is the reality. It's actually quite peaceful. Or it's not as bad as they are making it. Maya, what do you do for fun? I paint. I paint stuff like this. What do you do for fun? Seek the truth. What do you do for fun? I'm not telling you that's what I do. I would like to have a show, but I get distracted because I start painting and I'm really into it, then I have to stop and make music, and then it feeds into each other. But this is how I started back in the day, that when I paint, it makes me want to make music. And if I hadn't started painting, I wouldn't have put out Belle's collection. And I think that it all helps. Vanakkam. I started from scratch. I feel like that's kind of where I'm at, is sharpening my discernment abilities. I think it's important right now that, I think it's important that your soul is not triggered and emotionally triggered, and also how to respect. I'm trying to learn how to respect where you come from. And I'm trying to respect where I come from, but it not trigger me to the point I make the wrong decisions going forward. That is my process right now. What do you mean by that? I can't be cancelled. They cancelled me so much that I'm uncancelable. It's weird telling a joke on Instagram Live. So I'm not very good at telling jokes. It has to be like in the moment. And it's not funny reading comments and answering them. I am listening to this is going to be right on theme. I'm listening to Sister Gertrude. Yeah, King Brett, Sister Gertrude album. Da, da, da. You can only move forward when your triggers. Do you fear repercussions of some of the things you're really honest about? King Brit is OG Philly, and I'm broadcasting this as a Brit. Okay. Look, I hear a siren now. Thoughts on fasting. I'm not very good at this. I only know one thing. This is a good joke, right? Fasting. If you're fasting and you're not praying, that's called a diet. And that's it. That's all I have to say about fasting is you got to fast for a reason. And if you're just fasting and not praying, that is a diet. So yeah. How did you come up with Omni? I'm wearing Omni right now, see? I'm actually wearing my original prototype with the whole word on there. But now I've just stopped it to 111111. And you can see the silver coming out from this fabric on this live right now. See that all that shiny stuff? That is the silver on the inside of this lining. And silver. Tell another joke. Why are you working with this person and that person and this person. Hey, everyone has to go through their own journey in their own time. But you know, that's like why it's really interesting listening to all the albums. And Matangi's, obviously, when I discovered what the name meant and made that record, and I'm like, yeah, you know, it's a loud album, and it's doing all the things it's supposed to do, you know, and then I made the AIM album, and it was like very forgiving, and I didn't even know, you know, it was like coming to terms with everything and just being chill about it. And I was going through that process, but I didn't know why. And then it kind of made sense after. And yeah. Ding, 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 ding. Gonna be your foreign friend. So your foreign friend here that made the Border song on that AIM album, by the way, and now it's become like a huge situation, and like the enemy number one seems to be immigrants. But I did tell them 10 years ago, do not start wars all over the motherfucking place, because you're gonna get immigrants and you're gonna get migrants, you're gonna get refugees. We did not know this. M.I.A. fans did not know that. They knew that. I always said that from day one. Even during the Iraq War in 2004, when I first put out my first song, I was like, hey, you got a problem with refugees? Well, don't start wars. But you can't have a war machine that wants to be rich and please all the people. Like, you can't, Nigel Farage and all of the, you know, and I keep watching these Elon Musk memes of like people going, oh, East London used to be so cockney and white, and now it's all full of brown people. And I think that's kind of different, because East London's been brown since like the 60s or something. So they're a bit late on that. But even that, like the immigrants came in the 50s and 60s after the war. But after that, a lot of immigrants came, like Poland, Bosnia, like so many wars have happened since the 60s, you know, where like different cultures have come to England and settled. But if you trace back like some of the weapons that are dropped in these countries, let's be straight that, of course, like for first world countries to become first world, you have to sell some arms, and you got to have shit wars in shit countries, you know, and then those people want to run away because you can't live there. And that's what happens. So then all of the poor people in all these countries get really emotionally triggered, because they are the most triggerable, because they haven't traveled a lot, and you know, they are seeing what's happening on the news. You know, they live in fear, and this kind of breeds narrow-mindedness and ignorance, and it's on both sides, all sides. I wouldn't just say, oh, this is just happening to like the poor white demographic in East London or, you know, in Walthamstow. It's like every demographic is like that. Even like Christians can be very, very fucking ignorant, and Muslims can be like that, and like whatever, patriots can be like that. Ignorance is everywhere. It is in every community. So ignorance is your enemy. So this is why you have to have the power to discern. And someone said, yeah, generational trauma. Generational trauma is also one part of it. Okay, so like, this is how I understand it. Of course, it's like there is, you know, what makes modern places thrive is multiculturalism, facts. East London was, like where the riots are happening, or it's like it's supposed to be Walthamstow. It's basically, it's been like that for like decades and decades and decades, and they've never had riots there, okay? And if somebody gets stabbed in Bermondsey, there was no riots in Walthamstow. Or if somebody gets stabbed in Birmingham, then there's no, like the race riots pop off now and again, like the 80s, and there was like some in the 2000s, whatever, like there was one in 2011, but that was to do with the police. And there's different reasons for these to pop off. But like East London's been gentrified since the tech companies moved in. Google was based out of here. Facebook is here. Like Uber was here, wherever. Like this is like so gentrified, and tons of Chinese people buy loads of empty new builds to come shopping in London or whatever. Like, it's not as they make out. You can't gather all the Muslim into one area of London for a protest and then film that footage and then pump it on the news and say, look at the streets of London, this is what it looks like everywhere. It's just not true. You happen to film a corner of the street where everybody was gathered together in some event for the event's purpose, to represent that community. It's like if I put out a flyer and say, all Polish people, please come to the corner of my road on Sunday night, and they all turn up, and then I film them and I go, oh my God, London is infested with Polish people. And it's like, that is misinformation. And so, yeah, you're focusing on area, which is East London, Walthamstow, Stratford. Those areas were literally full of immigrants because no one else wanted to live there. If you go to nicer areas in London, that's where you get white people. You know, it's like you're not going to get that Walthamstow community in Chelsea. No. You're probably going to get a totally different demographic of human beings in Chelsea because it's by the standard of living, and where it's also to do with train stations. Apparently, when different communities came, for example, you know, it depends on which train they got from the port where they arrived, it determined where people settled. So it's not like all of England's like this or all of London is like that, first of all. Second of all, yeah, stop the wars in other places. Third of all, there is some karmic stuff going on where I do think that this is why I always stress that it's good to learn from the past, but some people refuse to learn from the past and still get manipulated. But there is a karmic cycle that happens. Watching from Walthamstow. There is a karmic cycle in that Winston Churchill let something like 6 million people die in India and starve to death, you know, and England got wealthy on the back of that. And it's kind of like a cycle where then, yeah, like all of these 6 million migrants turn up from the rest of the world that was like colonized for 100 years or whatever. And it's like we're seeing that cycle, and that's like what it is. It's not, but you can try to not think about that. But if you want to reset it, where those particular people belong to those particular areas and they have to stay there, and that there's never mixing and there's never traveling and there's never this sort of stuff. If you want that, then you have to fight harder to stop the wars. That's the only solution. Which then comes back to, yes, freeing Palestine, because everyone right now that's the war that everyone's focused on. That is the war everyone is focused on. And in order for you to only have Ukrainian refugees, or like white refugees, like the Polish and the Bosnians and Yugoslavians, and if you only want white refugees in England, then you have to know that you have to sell your weapons to those countries and be able to kill white people in those countries in order for you to then get white refugees in this country. Like, it's like that. So the reason why there's so many Muslims is because those are the ones that have been bombed in the last 20 years a lot. So that is just cause and effect, which is why you only notice them in your eyes like this, because you've been watching them for 20 years and just dropping bombs on wherever they are. That's why. But you will see white refugees everywhere if you dropped bombs in white countries. So you have to make a decision. Do you want money from weapons? Who you want to like drop it on? And then who you want to see in your country after that? Because 10 years later, they're going to turn up on your doorstep, wherever you drop the bomb. So these are decisions you have to make, which affects your future. Who bombed Africa? Who bombed Gaddafi? We all did. We all did. It was called NATO. Yeah, so that should be the song. Who bombed Puerto Rico? Who bombed Libya? Okay, the war never ends, someone said. The war never ends. It's a spiritual war. So if you think that all of these world wars are a simulation, yeah. What is it trying to do? But I don't think it's a simulation. Like, what it is in Christianity, they have these 4 entities. And funny enough, so one is principalities, which are the fallen angels, and when they fall, they become demons, like the bad ones, and they want to destroy everything. Number 2, there's wickedness in high places, and then there's rulers of darkness and powers. All of these 4 things have different roles and different ways of operating. And that's why you get what you get. Peace and war are a constant. So in the Bhagavad Gita, the whole thing is a war, and peace and war is a constant. But who it goes to and who it engulfs is always, it's true, it's always there. And you have to go above that. And it's kind of weird because every religion also speaks of war. And the Bhagavad Gita says, yes, you must go through this war. You must kill the people you know, your like friends, your family, like you got to do this. And the whole book is based on that. And Omni orders shipped today. I like the word omni and the word delivered. So everyone who's had the parcel delivered, just remember, you're delivered. Communism. This is a tough one because why don't you wear makeup? Because I was at home painting and I heard the sirens and I wanted to go on Instagram Live and I didn't feel like getting all dressed up for it. That's why. Is it machine washable? Yo, I'm like the worst person because I am pretty messy. So I do put it in the washing machine. I put it on a very short cold cycle. And I've even put it in the dryer and it's been fine. So I'm really surprised, but I'm living this. I wish I had the collection out. Well, I had it out all this time, but then I just packed it because I'm getting on a flight. But this is very good for the plane because you could do that and then lean against the flight like that onto the windows. And you know that all of the Wi-Fi electrical wiring for aeroplanes is in the side of the walls. It's not in the floor. It's not in the ceiling. It's in the sides. So when I go like that and sleep on it like this, and I always used to think window seats were the best seats, and I like stare out the window like this, I was just basically like zapping my brain. And now I can just do this and not care. So, why do you not age at all? Tell us your tips. I just told you. Try not to be bitter. Be forgiving. And don't regret shit. And if you make mistakes, and if you do weird shit, try to learn and get out of that cycle and say, I'm grateful that I was a great fool. I made a mistake, and you fucking fix it. My hearing aid was zapping me. That's interesting. I don't even know if the hearing aids would work if you put them. I don't know how it will work with Omni. I have not tested it. Metadata. The metadata. Wow, we're nearly 10 years from metadata years. What did they do with the metadata? What? Did you homeschool? No, I wish. What is your biggest lesson this year? The biggest lesson is full circle to where the conversation started, is that your soul is the past, your mind is the present, your spirit determines your future. And you can brush up on the spirit, get in touch with your spirit, connect to God, do all of this stuff, and realize who you are. And your spirits are like thousands of years old. Like, it was like made in eternity. So like, if you find that and connect with that, you're going to be fine, no matter what happens. Wars are constant. There's always going to be a war. There's always going to be a war. And even that is there to teach you something, you know? And your soul is the past, and sometimes you have soul ties. A lot of you have soul ties. A lot of you have soul ties, and a lot of you talk that shit on the internet, and I have to put up with it, where you're like, it's my ancestors. It's like, yes, I have ancestors, and don't forget my ancestors were also confused. Some of them were confused. So if they come as a spirit and I'm channeling into that, I don't want a fucking confused motherfucker giving me no fucking power. Do you understand that? I don't want that. I love them. I'm happy to let them come and go and exist and go back to God. Like, go back to the spirit, connect that spirit to God where they come from. I hope they were good and they do go up to God where they come from. And if some of them were bad spirits, then they don't go there. That is their thing. I don't want to keep them in astral planes and connect to them and trap them for my stupid need in 2024. So it's my life, and my spirit has got my own freaking journey. And I respect my ancestors, and I respect the lives that they had, and all of these things. But they don't control. I don't want their spirits to control me. I'm my own spirit. I was put here as a spirit too. And You don't need your ancestors' spirit to give you strength. So, when you hold on to these things and you don't let people go, they get stuck in the celestial realm, and you don't want to trap them. Like, let them be, go back to where they need to be and free them. Because some of your ancestral knowledge could be amazing, but some of them just could have been done ignorant, and you're holding on to ignorance, and it's not necessary. I can never tell which spirit is which. What about the wisdom? The wisdom is there. It's in your DNA. It's already there, but it's in the blood, and it's in you, and it's like you have it, but some of it, not all of it is great. So you have to then, if you want to focus on your ancestral identity and your ancestral connections and speaking to them or pulling them out of the celestial realm to talk to you or whatever, you don't know that they could be, it could just be random spirits talking to you, pretending to be your grandma or whatever. So be careful. Second of all, some of it is that they're not, you know, it depends what kind of thing you're following, because if you're following, you know, Satan can give you the same amount of power. So of course there's demons and in witchcraft and things like that where you can tap into spirits that give you power, but you got to pay a price, you know. And one of the price you pay for that is that you know your own spirit. And that is not the goal of being on earth. Satan doesn't give you power, someone said. No, but Satan has an army of people that can do shit. Satan is a liar. Satan is a liar. He's a liar. And you know what? One of the most frustrating things about my life is watching people be promised things and Satan taking something away from you and not giving you something that he promised. And so it really taught me that Satan doesn't give the people what they want anyway. He just like constantly tricks people. And yeah, it's better to just not have much and seek the truth. And you know, I'm okay with everyone thinking everything, because I did that too. And my albums are that, you know, it's that journey. And I feel like addressing the earthly plane is naming your albums after your mom and dad. Like, that is the world, it's the material. And then once you pass the material, then you get into the M.I.A, which is the realms of illusion and all the bullshit. Then God was like, Matangi, hey. And then I was like, oh my God, I've arrived. And it's like, oh, I'm supposed to be a Hindu, da 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 da. And it's like, no, that's not what it is either. And aim for the truth. And I'm still aiming. I hope all you are safe in Walthamstow and in England. Just ignore Elon Musk. There is no civil war. And this isn't the battle, I would say. The Treasure Island Festival. Who can we trust now? You must trust God. Who concerns you most about the future? I like the statement, we're drowning in knowledge and information and lacking the wisdom to choose. This is why I think it's really important to practice discernment, because you have to have the ability to tell. And even Mother Nature is created by God, so we can't say Mother Nature is God, because Mother Nature is created by God, and Mother Nature can't be found on like Mars, so it's very unique to this planet. So it's not everything, you know, it is specific. So Mother Nature is a representation of God as well. Have you tried discerning with Diplo? No, I have tried forgiving and not harboring resentment or bitterness and all of these things, because that's not my fight. And also there's bigger forces. I don't know, sometimes yes, praying and fasting strengthens and refines discernment. Because some of you have abilities, some of you have really important and good abilities, and that is important for the world and people's destinies. You're there sometimes not to save yourself, but to save other people. And some of you are just wasting time and you've been distracted. So the way that principality works is basically it's like a prince without a kingdom. So the spirit will find the most potent, prayerful, connected, prophetic person in the community, and he will target them and he will get them lost first. And so he will fill them up with confusion and lead them astray. And then because they're so powerful and they've been anointed by God to save so many other destinies, they will be led astray, so they can't save those people they were meant to save. And that's what happens. A lot of the people who are influential, are meant to be influential, have a special gift for being influential, are targeted the most. And you can say this happens in a spiritual realm, but it also happens if you try to not believe in God and you want to explain exactly in a very scientific, methodological way. If you want to say, it's how like social media works or the news works, or how when you like respond to certain things and how like you get triggered by emotions, or the fact that people know that your favorite thing is this thing and that's how they're going to know, and people know your friend circle because you can find it on the internet and all of this stuff. Like, it's now easier to find your circle of influence, and if I affect you and your circle of influence gets lost with you, and a lot quicker than it used to happen. So while the technological ability of getting you lost gets better, your ability to know that has to get better too. To fight that, it has to get stronger. And so this sort of speed in the development of technology to find people, to find the ones who are prophetic, find the people who have influence, find the people who are anointed, find the people who can affect destinies, and to break them, it gets quicker and quicker and quicker. You saw me in Lewisham bus. If you saw me in the Lewisham bus, it was because I was coming from Belmarsh prison. It's the only time I go to Lewisham. Anyway, so this is why it's important to stay strong and knowing. Lewisham is getting gentrified, I know. First of all, prayer. Prayer works to strengthen these things. It does, and sometimes prayer doesn't work by itself, so you have to do other things like fasting and finding somebody who knows, what they're doing to help you. And yeah, you have to do that all the time. Stay away from the internet really helps, because at this point, or use the internet to find the information you need. And obviously back it up, as in go and make sure that it's not some fake information, because that is, now we're living through that time. But I do think that the internet sometimes is working in the same way. Like it will bring you the thing, that you are already thinking about, you know. I'm going to join the internet. Is a tool that can be used by both, as my book is about that. Like the use of technology can be used by both. It can be used by good and bad. So it will always be a neutral thing. The vying for power technologically, it will always, I feel like, find balance. You know, it's part of the war. It's just, you can transfer this war to any medium. You can transfer the war ideologically. You can have it physically with weapons. You can have it spiritually in the spirit realm. Why do people hate Jesus so much? Because he's already implemented your peace and your gift and your, like, the beauty and the grace and all the things you want in life. He's already given it to you. And Satan's just tricked you into saying, no, that never happened. That person never existed. And so you wouldn't know that. And so what do you do? So what are you going to wait for? To go to Mars and find it there? To call upon your ancestors who used to be bacteria that you evolved from? A fish? A Neanderthal? Like, how far are you going to go back with the ancestors? So, yeah. Science is a study of something. And so you know, the funny thing is, the British people, I'm going to tell you this because I'm going to be super fucking honest right now, because fuck it. But when I went past the church, I saw British people in a church, like using a church for what it's meant to be used for the first time, years. Like, I go there all the time. Either it's empty and I'm like two people in there. You know, it's very forced, like, it's like some weird sort of custom. It never feels right. And I stopped going. But then, yesterday, I felt like British people have beans in a can. I feel like they're trying to get back into it, okay? And I'm like, okay, if the Christians and the Muslims who both believe in Jesus kind of unite, it would be kind of cool because they can help each other. But it's not going to happen because the internet will keep them warring. So there you have it. Because they actually have a lot of things in common. So yeah, so I don't know. Someone said, I want to buy your metal clothing line. It's precious metal. Look, you can see the silver. It's precious metal. And also some of you, I'm just talking to the religious ones right now. The Muslims as well. Because it's also an illusion where we are told that you can have heaven in heaven, like when you die. And also in Buddhism, it's like you must suffer, then you get this thing. But the reason why Christianity is cool is because you can have it now. Because you can have heaven on earth. And that is pretty insane to come to terms with. Yes, you must find the heaven here, and you can have that once you work on everything around you, your mind, your body, your like everything. And once you reach that frequency, you can have heaven on earth. And it's something we already have, but then we mess it up because we think we don't have it. So we act like crazy and complain saying we don't have it, but then we manifest those words and then we don't have it because you've just manifested it. So you have to be very careful what you say. So if you have something in you and you wake up and you say you don't have it, then you don't have it. And if somebody is trying to help you and tell you you got it, and you say they're talking shit, then you won't even experience the blessing from those words or the enlightenment or whatever the thing is. So that is also another thing, that mistakes that we make. And yeah, that's kind of a cool thing to learn. And also, some people have healing powers and healing abilities. And, you know, and a lot of people embrace like new world religions and like new age religions, you know, because they know they have this healing ability. But you wouldn't have a healing ability if you're not supposed to be here and be healed and have more time here. You would just be in heaven. In fact, you wouldn't even need to be created. So people who say, I'm a healer, you're a healer because you're supposed to heal people, and you're healing people because they need to be here and not die. Which means, why do you have to be here? And you have to be here because you're supposed to achieve heaven on earth and show that you can. You're so right. Now go write a song about it. I might just do that. Yeah. I think my songs can be healing because I healed myself with it. Because I had a lot of trauma and I was raised to know that I was nothing. I was told all the time, you won't amount to shit. Whether it was at school or my family or like anything. And I broke through that. And I broke through that by myself, sat in a room by myself and writing those songs and discovering every day, like, whoa, I think I just cured my trauma. And every time I did it, I was different. Every time I wrote a song, I was different. And it was a mad revelation to think, wow, you have the power to do that. Like, all this time I'd spent, and don't forget, I was like 26, 27 at this point. So really old for music. And it took me that long to be like, oh, you do it yourself. And someone's like, yeah, salvation comes through work. But it's also, that's also discernment to be like, oh, I have trauma, and then I can like release. I wouldn't say release, that's the wrong word. I can transform it. And then, because it's very important that you don't say release, because you don't want to release your trauma on other people. That is bullshit. I rebuke those words. So what it is, you transform your trauma, and instead of it being trauma, what it is it's like a battery. It's energy. And it's like, it becomes your superpower. And then you realize that is the thing that God gave you. That is your thing. That's your power. And you got to find it, and then you got to transform it, and you got to make something like happen. So first of all, you have to be grateful and not a great fool for every single thing that happens to you. And then you have to allow yourself to be transformed. Then you have to say, I'm not going to put my bullshit on other people. So dancing is like release. And I always like making dance music because it's fun. And yeah, dancing is good. And if it healed, I believed that if it healed me, it can heal other people. But I do think that I am still growing. I'm still growing. And that I wouldn't say that I've arrived. And I don't think could you talk about Matangi? What, the album? Jesus is saying that he's going to come back and he's going to fuck up some people. He is. And it's not even people. He's going to take on the thing that people cannot take on. That's what Jesus is saying. But there's still a bit of time to go. A lot of musicians have trauma. Yeah, but a lot of musicians, I do think a lot of musicians do have trauma, but they're also like fall under the influence quite a lot because they have egos. I have that. I had to pray to get rid of that, which is pride, which is the spirit of pride. And well, a lot of musicians are affected by marine spirit. So like a lot of us put out energy that is like the siren and things of the water, you know, like mermaids that sing and sirens that sing. And it's all about lust and seducing and that. And I think intoxication. And I do love that I have songs about that. Before I was aware of it, I didn't know, I was ignorant. But musicians can be consumed because a lot of us are very open spiritually, which is how we write music and get music from the ether and frequency or whatever. We're more open. So because you're open, and when you go to the studio, a lot of people write music when they're high and they smoke weed or do this and do that. And when you do, then your aura is open. And so this is why when people say the music industry is satanic, I feel like that's what they're talking about, is that that you're vulnerable under the influence, and anything can influence you, and that's what they mean, it's satanic. But really, you know, people who don't do music but are like clairvoyants, they say, oh, I get my knowledge from the spirit. And I think musicians have the ability to be highly sensitive to things and the environment and whatever, and so they can be affected very quickly. And you've got to be aware of what you're being affected by. I don't think every musician just naturally taps into the exact same thing, and that we all want to perpetuate lust and addiction. I think that comes from a very specific type of thing. Agree. I think weed is a wonderful thing, but it makes you open. And if you don't know about spiritual stuff, you probably should not smoke around lots of people until you educate yourself. And if you don't have to educate yourself, but prepare to deal with confusion later on, because that is the issues that can happen. Is if you're vulnerable and you're open and your aura's open and it's open to influence, then later down the line you will be slightly lost and shit won't make sense and you don't know why. Then you need to have a backup plan of how you're going to find yourself again and go back to your spirit, you know, because you're carrying some other spirit around. So that's a thing. Yes, creativity can come from isolation. I prefer to do that because then it's your spirit directly talking and not other people's. Because if you're sensitive and you're an empath, you can be a vessel to channel other people's thing and you put it out, or you can put your thing out. If you were supposed to do that, then your thing is important. So it's better to find out. So you try to create on your own, and if God put something in you that you need to get something out to people and you have the ability to like do something with it, then you'll find out. And some people are maybe more conductive and they harness other people's, channel other people's kind of thing and make music and put it out. But, or if you're painting or whatever, I think painting is better in solitude. Writing is better when you're alone. I like being around, I do like being around people as well. There's always, I don't know, different moments. I like being alone when I write. How do you protect yourself? Well, discernment. So first, if you are weak and you don't have enough understanding, you don't smoke and drink around tons of people you don't know. You start there. Then, once you're better at knowing yourself, then you're good. But if you're vulnerable and you're young and you don't know, then you protect yourself like that. You protect yourself by fasting every now and again. You do it for like a few days, cleanse and pray. You do all of that. Then you buy Omni for some extra protection. I break a fast. You're supposed to break it eating like fruit. The easiest thing to digest. Chocolate. I once broke my fast with a slice of chocolate cake. Then I asked for forgiveness because my body is my temple. Happy birthday. I'm still learning. I feel like I'm a newbie at this, but I will keep you posted. The important thing is, do not let somebody mess with your mind, which is the present, by evoking emotional triggers from your past, which is your soul, to change the direction of your spirit and where it's going, which is the future. Okay? Again, that is the message of this live. Do not be triggered. Your soul is the past. So you have soul ties, and your soul is made up of like all of the knowledge from the past is where you come from. Your present is your mind, and that can be triggered, activated, manipulated. It's what you're exposing yourself to every day, even this live. But your spirit, it only focuses on the future. So your spirit is not something from that lives in the past. Your spirit is something that lives in the future. So what you do today affects your spirit tomorrow. But I can control what happens to your spirit by controlling your mind today. And the way that internet and algorithms and the way shit is done on the internet is to manipulate your mind, which is your present, by pulling on the triggers of your soul, which is your emotional triggers, to affect and throw you off your spiritual destiny. So you have to bypass that. And you got to find that way. And your spirit will always want to connect with God. But it can be thrown off. And it can be thrown off by what you do in the present, but also what you hold on to from the past. So sometimes, and I'm also a victim of this, where I make my decisions based on my past. And it's a lot. And sometimes to get to the next level, you have to sacrifice yourself, you know, and you have to give up yourself. And that is connected to also like your soul ties and things that made you you, or like things that you're defined by, your identity is defined by, the illusion of the self. Yes, it's not even the illusion, because sometimes you are that, like it's in your DNA, it's in your blood, it's all stored information in your body, your generational trauma, curses, like info, memories, like all of these things is your soul, the food you like that your grandma cooked, or all of these things. That is your soul. So that's why you say soul food, which connects you to your identity. And sometimes using those things, because of those things, you're emotionally triggered, and you make decisions on that, because your soul is the only thing. Your soul splits into three, where it's your emotion, and then it's your will, the decisions you make, and the things you act on. So like a lot of you are making decisions in your life which is emotional. And the emotional part of you is connected to the soul, not the spirit. The spirit doesn't have emotions. Your soul has emotions. So that's the difference. Spirit is your potential and what you're connecting to. Spirit is your equals emotion. That's wrong. Your soul determines your emotion, and then what you do and act on the will of your emotion, what decisions you make, life choices you make, those are determined by, some people determine it by their emotion, but you should be determining it by your spirit, not your soul. Because your soul is connected to your past. And it can be easily triggered by knowing your past and then using it against you to get you really emotional. And I think that's what, like, the riot is. It's about England wanting to remember what it once was in the 1900s or the 1800s or World War II days. It wants to connect to itself and how it used to be. So people are emotionally triggered using this image that does not exist and hasn't existed for a bit. But it didn't not exist because of immigrants. England's identity changed throughout time over the 100 years. For many, many reasons. But England's mind is now manipulated by these triggers that are performed on social media or whatever, you know, where people are saying you're going to have a civil war. And I'm not downplaying the crime, but a crime happened in England, but a crime in England happens every day. It's not like we are living in heaven and there's no such thing and out of the blue this one thing happened. But the spirit of England is that you cannot fix the problems in England right now if they don't even have a spiritual identity. And England doesn't have a spiritual identity. We don't. I don't see it anywhere I go. And when you attack Muslims, it doesn't mean the spiritual identity of England is strengthened. It's not. I go to St. Paul's and it's full of tourists that have to pay £15 to get in to go and look at the church because it's a tourist attraction. Nobody goes to St. Paul's to pray, and you have to pay to get in. Like, spiritually, where is England going? The spirit of England's already tapped into money and it's tapped into a bigger power, which is America. And right now, America's at war, and America's having issues with their spirituality. Well, I think that the biggest spiritual thing that happened in England in the last 10 years was Harry Potter. And that's facts. Yes, love is, but even love has been coined by American version, which is love wins. And then it's been adopted by a cause. And that cause is now the biggest cause in the world, in the West. And that's a fact. You know, after Harry Potter came Love Wins. And what's up with that? And also, people might misinterpret this, but when you're lost and you don't have hope and you believe in miracles or don't believe in miracles, and you look up and you see a rainbow in the sky, and it's supposed to show you that God is about to do some miracle or something like that. But that's been adopted into this world, and it's been taken out of the spiritual plane. And now you see a rainbow and you associate it to sex. And God invented sex, but sex is not God. And that's a very important thing to know. It's true. God did invent sex. I think God will flood the earth again if he wanted to. I think the rainbow represents that he's about to do some miracle, or that you can still believe in him if you lose hope and you see one. So anyway, sometimes what we do is take these things and then we put them and we reappropriate their meanings, and then, you know, then I think people confuse what love is. I think that's what I'm trying to say. So love is not a thing. It's not like a movement. It's like it can't be coined and marketed and shit like that, you know? And well, it's important to talk about love in a time where hate is being preached and amplified and told that everybody hates everyone, you know? So it's important to talk about love because that is a goal. That is a goal to stay in that zone, you know, because that is like, I think it's more than an emotion, and it can connect. It connects you to the higher plane of your version of yourself, you know, and it's really important not to forget that. And I think as refugees and migrants and people that come from different places, whether we come from war and trauma, like it needs to be addressed as well. And I think that we who come to another place, we also have to be aware of how much we give our time to live in this trauma. And I know that fighting oppression that put you in a situation where you experience trauma, but a lot of us experience trauma for many different reasons. But if you come from the war and you then carry that trauma, and you know, it basically, it can make you stronger or it can make you more vulnerable. You know, like the way a human deals with it is determined by the spirit. It's determined by your soul, your mind, and your spirit. You know, how you process it. So you can go to the lower form of yourself, which is in the holding on to the trauma, and you fuel bitterness, hate, and revenge, and you seek to destroy others like you were destroyed. And you go and try to do this. Or you do the transformation and you go, oh, because this happened, I want to make sure this doesn't happen to anybody else, or here's all the things that I learned, and then you can try to do something good with it. So there's always two types, you know. of people. And that is then to do with ignorance spiritually. And you are not processing. And then that's like that's why spirituality is important, because why does that happen? And what is the journey that throughout time humans are going through this again and again and again and again? Like, there must be a reason to this cycle. And this is why I have a problem with people saying we came from, bacteria and we came from fish. We came from like some weird tadpole. Because if we evolved and became something else, that thing never ends. So the only way it ends is you come out of it. Some of you are there to even help other people but can't help yourself, by the way. Some of your issues is that spiritually you're not active, because we're also told that we have to live for ourselves. And I feel like that all the time, that when I try to live for myself, I'm pretty useless. But then if I try to do something, then I feel lighter, because I'm not even useful to myself most of the time. Or it's like my ability, if it's to make music, it's not something you can entertain yourself with. It's a bit useless. It's not like you could do it in isolation. You can make it in isolation, but it's I suppose you can play it in isolation and just experience it yourself. But the whole point of it is that then you have to share it. I need lip balm. So, I have been on this live for about 10 hours. I don't hear any more sirens. So I think this is good. Calm, 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 as they say. Gravity's my enemy. Grabs me like I'm money. So, I am grateful, not a grateful, okay? I'm going back to my painting now to finish my painting. And thanks for listening. God doesn't call the qualified, He qualifies the called. That is so true. Just remember that. I was painting before I made music. Like, what is your fucking problem? Of course I paint. Thanks, everyone.